So what we've seen so far is that defense mechanisms are part of common sense. Some of them have been given a certain amount of empirical validation, and they purport not just to describe our unconscious mental life, but to explain why we do the things that we do in certain cases. Not always and in every case, but in those cases in which our actions might be perhaps striking, surprising, odd, not something that you would have expected a person to do. Some of these unconscious explanations are offering to do some of the work. A similar approach is offered by Melanie Klein, another one of the great theorists of psychoanalysis from the mid-20th century. Her dates were 1882 to 1960. Like Anna Freud, she was born in Vienna from Jewish heritage. She broke away from an unhappy marriage, made her way into the new field of psychoanalysis without even so much as a bachelor's degree. She came to London in 1926 at the invitation of the distinguished psychoanalyst Ernest Jones. And for decades, she was one of the main of the three groups within British psychoanalysis that were best known. She was the leader of what you might guess came to be known as the Kleinians. Klein was an innovator in working with children, particularly in watching them interact with toys. One of her most important insights was that these interactions can be seen as windows into the child's unconscious mind, particularly when children allow toys to adopt roles which may be hypothesized to stand in for the roles of the people in their lives, for example, the caregivers. For example, the child is playing with this doll and puts on that doll the role of a demanding mother. Maybe has another doll, and that doll ends up taking on the role of a submissive father. That's something that a clinician playing with a child or observing the child play can use as a bit of evidence, as kind of a clue for what's going on in the child's unconscious mind, whereas the child would not be unable to verbally articulate that information. Nevertheless, the child can manifest it, express it, by means of the way in which the child plays with those toys. So this was a major insight on Klein's part and has influenced child psychology ever since. Klein also talked about the phenomenon of splitting. She hypothesized that children have trouble reconciling opposite tendencies within others. As a result, they tend also to ascribe incompatible characteristics to different people or to one person at different times or in different ways, different parts of the body, different times of day, etc. For very young children, Klein even talks about them as hypothesizing or having a concept of a good breast or a bad breast if they're still breastfeeding, for example. One's good, one's bad. That's a form of splitting. Normal emotional maturation eventually yields the realization that these incompatible tendencies can be something that a single person can have within them. But Klein points out that this realization, which he calls the depressive position, is difficult, hard to achieve. She writes, it entails a steady, though painful approximation towards the reality of oneself and others. So the hard-won realization that people are complicated, have differing parts, it's not always the case that those parts are easily compatible with one another, is just a fact of life. And growing up involves coming to realize and accept that fact.